Probably wondered where I was this spring when I was away for 2 months. Well,
We didn't notice, Howard.
where did that come from?
Your friend. That was your friend.
So, well, the initial idea was to go to Egypt. But, back in 1974, I got a Fulbright grant to teach in Malaysia. And on the way back, I could stop wherever I wanted as long as I was continuing to head west. So I stopped in Istanbul for 2 days, and Cairo for 2 days. And at that time, remember, Egypt had was just recovering from 2 wars with Israel, and people seemed depressed. Both places actually seemed very medieval, very large. There were only men out in the streets. So I was curious to go back and see how things have changed, if things have really changed. So I took off and first went to Turkey, to Istanbul, which turned out I really enjoyed the Turks and being down the center of Istanbul, in the old quarters, where Hagia Sophia, their famous mosque, is. And that was built around 500 AD, to give you an idea of how old it is. It was originally a Christian church, but then became a mosque when the Ottoman Empire took over Turkey. And it's really impossible with my smartphone to take a decent photo of the interior, but it's one of the largest dome structures in the world. It's really very extraordinary. It's now a museum, tourists can visit. And while in Istanbul, I did go to the market, which is famous for goods that you can buy any sort. And while in Turkey, I went off to the coast to Ephesus, where there are Roman ruins. You probably know along the Turkish coast there are a lot of Roman ruins. And also, see there's some of the remains. Your friendly Roman ruins cast. And then I went to Cappadocia, which is famous for having a city of houses that are underground in caves, and various structures there. Very interesting. Then on to Egypt, to Cairo, and of course to see the Great Pyramids. It turns out they were actually built by the earliest pharaohs, not the late pharaohs. So these date back to about 2800 BC, you can imagine. And the scale of them is just hard to imagine just how enormous they are, these pyramids. And this gives you an idea. Can you see the people there at the base of the pyramid to get an idea of just how enormous they are? I did not go inside because the best interiors are actually found in smaller pyramids. And some of those, there's the Sphinx. It turns out my guide, I had actually taken a course before I left on ancient Egypt. And my professor was a character from Brooklyn with a working class accent. He's a world's expert on mummies and on Egyptology. And his name is Bill Breyer. And in Egypt, I had a guy, Tayeb. It turned out Tayeb was a good personal friend. Of course he was. Breyer. Quite amazing. And I had very good guys there who knew a tremendous amount. This is up the Nile at Karnak, where there are enormous temples. These date back more to about 1200 to 1400 BC. They're actually built by later kingdom pharaohs, including Ramses III, who was perhaps their most famous, most powerful pharaoh, lived around 1200 BC. I was surprised, I'd say, way under expected what I'd see remained on the walls, that the walls and the ceilings, outside and inside, were actually covered with hieroglyphics and with relief sculpture. And it was all painted bright colors, so the colors have all faded in time, and a lot of the hieroglyphics and sculptures have also faded, but that was perhaps my most amazing surprise.
There are colors inside?
Inside the ceilings and the walls, and you'll see I have one photo that shows that, and of course there was the Egyptian cat, these monuments. He was meditating, and
He's using a phone in
that takes it to him, and that too is up the Nile, across the Nile from where Karnak was. And this pharaoh was actually a female, Hatshepsut, and visited her. And also the Valley of the Kings, where Tutankhamun's tomb is. That was being renovated, and didn't get a chance to go in there, but I got a chance to go in some others. But that is the entrance to Tutankhamun's tomb. Bob, this gives you an idea of what the interiors were like in both the monuments, the temples, and the tombs underground. And then finally, way up above the Aswan Dam is Abu Simbel, which no doubt you're familiar with. And this structure was actually raised in elevation because the Aswan Dam covered the original site. So they moved the entire sculpture and the interior. There are rooms inside the cliff there. All of that was carefully moved up in elevations at the same site, but you're still able to visit it all and see it. This also is built by Ramses III, so that's around 1200 BC. Then I headed over to Italy to join up with Jim Stevenson, who lives in West Haven. And he and I have bicycled before in Europe and other places. And this time we were bicycling in Italy. So I flew to Milan, briefly visited the city, that's the Gothic cathedral that Milan is famous for. I stopped by Florence.
Okay.
That's my Airbnb. Overlooking the Duomo in Florence, and briefly went to a few museums here. Michelangelo's David, and also the Academy has the slave sculptures. Tremendous to see. It is getting very crowded in Florence with tourists, so you want to buy tickets ahead of time to see these places. And there's Michelangelo's library. Truly amazing, just totally amazing. And then flew up, I took the train up to Innsbruck to meet Jim, and we bicycled from Innsbruck down to Verona and then over to Venice. And it's a downhill ride all the way. It was age appropriate.
Part where you're going up.
And we started up in the Alps in Innsbruck, and we bicycled down to Verona. And it's one of the most amazing bicycle rides you can take. It's all bike paths, no riding on roads and highways. You can see, and you go down through this canyon, and you're sharing this narrow canyon with freeways. You see over there on the left, with trains and with the roaring, raging river and the bike paths all going crowded together and sometimes above each other. You can see the bike paths going underneath the highway there. Just a gorgeous ride. And you even have your own tunnels for bicycle paths. They're very bike friendly in most countries in Europe. And continuing down here, that's Jim. And then getting down. The elevation started to rain a lot, so we had the exciting experience of bicycling all day in the rain. But it was drizzling, and it was really, we were prepared for it. Then you may wonder where my wife was during all this time. She was taking a trek in northern England while we were bicycling. And so my wife and I met, where else but in Paris. And we had this Airbnb in that building just to the right with restaurants down the street. There were about 10 different ethnic restaurants. In the distance there, you see the beginning of Luxembourg Park. And the Sorbonne is about half a block away. So we were just an amazing location on the left bank there. And there's the Sorbonne. There's Luxembourg Park. And of course you have to spend your time in cafes, watching people in the street, and then all the amazing restaurants, little holes in the wall, really good escargot, snails, garlic butter, and you could put anything in garlic butter. French onion soup, frog's legs, all sorts of great foods that you never dreamed would be delicious. And this is the dining room in the museum, Museé d'Orsay. Very elegant dining room. And you feel like the king and queen in there. And gourmet food that they offer as dessert. I had to break my diabetic diet for that. This is one of the restaurants we ate at. It's so wonderful. There's about room for at most 20 people in this restaurant. They pride themselves in good food. And there's a Renoir, Museé d'Orsay. Another artist I love, Seurat. Great musical about that. Sunday's Park with George in New York, if you ever get a chance to see it. It's a musical. That's where Sartre and the existentialists hung out, along with Hemingway and various other artists and writers. Pound hung out there. It still exists. Finally, we went to London to end the trip. There's Parliament across the river and the parks of London. We got a lot of rain by that time. It didn't matter. Still wonderful walk, parks. The Tate Museum, marvelous paintings. Good music. We heard a Bach guitar in one of the churches one day. They just performed by a local group, just performing Bach guitar. Did a good job of it. And finally, we went up to, why am I not thinking of it? It's a place, Greenwich, where the time begins for our planet. And walked up the hill to the observatory there and conclude our trip. So enjoyed sharing this experience that I had. It's an amazing retirement kind of vacation.
That's totally awesome.
Howard, enough of this. Tell us about Jazz King.
I did go to jazz.
I know.
class.
All right. Yeah,
Yes, I have work to do, Bob. No, it was truly amazing.
And where was it again?
It's Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie Aebersold, who's famous in jazz world, because he's a proponent of jazz for everybody. Everybody can learn to improvise, even me. So, yeah, so it was fun, and I did get to perform in Congo, of course. That was a great experience. Thanks for that.
That's cool.
So, I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and go there. So when you ride from Innsbruck to Paris, you end up with Sorbonne?
No.